Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Questions with Kurt. Today the question I want to talk about is how do you deal with or cope with personal and professional shortcomings? Now I think this is a question that many of us face. I certainly have been dealing with this question my whole life in many different versions of it. I think we all have shortcomings, we all have things that we wish and think we could do better at, whether it's personal or professional. This issue comes up with jobs that I want, that I don't get, earlier when I wasn't in a relationship / when I wasn't married, dating and people I wanted to date and not being single. We all struggle with what we believe to be shortcomings. We want our lives to be better than they are. We have dreams that we want to obtain but haven't reached yet. We all in some way deal with them, right? No matter who we are, I think no matter how successful, where we are in life, how rich we are or prolific, most of us can relate to this feeling of having to cope with and deal with shortcomings and not feeling good about ourselves. I wanted to share how I sort of deal with them. I'm not perfect and I still sometimes feel depressed or feel down or feel disappointed with myself. The most important thing to do when coping with feelings of personal or professional shortcomings is framing what our purpose is in life and what exactly do we want to do, what our goal is. For me, the purpose of life and how to live your best life is to push yourself to the limit of your desires and your capabilities. And when we do this, I think we'll lead the most meaningful life and be the happiest we can be. Really, it is very invigorating and fulfilling to see your own boundaries, to find your boundary now, see if you can push it to even further in terms of what you want and what you can do. Everyone sort of enjoys interacting with as much of this world that we live in as it is today, as your capability allows. With that specific mindset and attitude, it helps me sort of deal with and cope with personal and professional shortcomings. So for instance, if I don't get a job that I want, or back in the day when a relationship didn't work out, or I got rejected on a date, taking this kind of attitude of wanting to interact with the world as much as we can, as your capability allows, everything that you perceive as a shortcoming or a disappointment or a failure really is just you interacting with this world around you to the best of your abilities, and that's really all you want to do and that's all you can do. So it sort of reframes it rather than a failure, but as almost as a success, because if the point of living your best life and the point of living, the meaning of life is to interact with this world as much as you can to the as your capabilities allow, then there really is no such thing as a failure anymore. Well, the world is no longer binary. It's not winners and losers, good and bad, success, failure. It's just really you're living your life and you're pushing your boundaries, and with every new experience you grow and get better and you learn and you educate yourself, whether it's with something professional, something technical, math, art, literature, or getting to know yourself, or getting to know people, getting to know your friends, getting to know other people around the world, how the world works, how humans behave, what works and doesn't work in a relationship, what works and doesn't work in a marriage. You're just constantly learning and you're constantly interacting with the world that you live in, with as much of the world as possible as to what your capabilities allow. The more you learn, your boundaries go farther and farther out. You're able to do more, you're able to experience more. I know this all sounds sort of abstract. Maybe it's even more abstract than living your best life, but to me anyway, it's helpful. Just for an example, if I go out for a job or a role that I think I want to do, going back to what I said, it's like pushing the limits of my desires, pushing the limits of my capabilities. There's a role that I want, and I go for it, do my best. Sometimes I get it, and when I get it, it's great. I'm really happy. But if I don't get it, my instinct is to feel bad about myself, feel disappointment. That's natural. It's okay to feel that way. But how I get over it and how I cope with it and deal with that feeling of personal and professional shortcoming, I tell myself that I was pushing the boundaries of my desires and capabilities, and I was interacting with as much of this world as possible as my capabilities allow. And maybe it was my capability that didn't allow me to get that job, or maybe it was the world. Maybe I was right for that job, but the person who was the gatekeeper, who was making the decision for that job, didn't think I was right for that job. That was the limit of how much the world wanted to interact with me, and that's something I have to accept. I try not to see that as a failure, and eventually when I train my mind this way, I get over that feeling of disappointment and feeling of my own shortcomings, because I did my best, I lived my best life, I pushed my boundaries and my limits and capabilities, and I interacted with the world as much of this world as I could, as what my capabilities allow. That's all you really can do. That's really the point of this life, is to live life itself. And there's no point feeling bad about yourself and your shortcomings, because you are fulfilling your destiny. You're fulfilling what you needed to do in this world. And this whole idea and concept of living your best life and interacting with as much as the world as you can, as to what your capabilities allow, it's even made more complex with the people around us, the people we interact with on a day-to-day basis, the people we love, our friends, our families, our spouses, our partners. Each of these people can elevate our experience of living this life in different ways. I think it's important to realize that, and it's important to remember that and remind ourselves of that every time we feel that we've had a personal or professional shortcoming and feel bad about ourselves. Some people maybe feel like they regret making certain life choices, they didn't pursue a dream as soon as they wanted to. Some people might think they made personal choices that hindered their career, or they didn't get to have the career they wanted. It's good to remember that career is just one thing, one aspect of life. Life is so much more than that. And so if you lived a really rich life, you took those vacations, you raised a family, you got married, you had those friends, you made those memories and all those connections, that's irreplaceable. You were interacting with the world in a different way. You were interacting with this world as much as you could at the time, with the knowledge you had and with the decisions you made at the time. I think that helps me anyway with certain regrets. If I have feelings of regrets, I'm like, oh, I should have done this instead of this. Oh, I wasted my time doing this. I should have started this earlier. It's remember the times you spent with people, and remember the memories you made, the connections you made, and that's as important, if not more, than whatever career you had, or whatever money you had, or whatever material goods that you enjoyed or you want to enjoy. And the beautiful thing is that we probably elevated their experience as well. It's not a zero-sum game. Both people's experiences are elevated when you interact in a nice and enriching way. And these are the kind of connections that I aspire to make. These are the connections that I want to have in my life, the ones that elevate me and I elevate them, and we both elevate each other, and we both make our lives better. We both contribute to each other's living their best life. And I think that's a beautiful thing. You really should just be enjoying yourself, enjoy your body, enjoy your capabilities, enjoy what you can do, not concentrate so much on the goals and reaching that goal, but really enjoying the journey of how to get there, because pushing your boundaries every day is really the main goal in life. And we all have different limits and boundaries, not just in terms of our personal capabilities, but also what this world that we're born into will allow us to do. I've talked about this in a lot of my other videos. You know, men can do and get away with things that women can't, unfortunately. White people can get away with things and do things that people of color can't get away with. Overall, the general trend is the world is getting better, you know, compared to 50 years ago or 100 years ago. We can only do as much as what the world will allow us. I think part of that goal of pushing those boundaries is to make the changes in the world that we want to see, right? I always am for pushing those boundaries and getting rid of the stereotypes so that a more diverse group of people can push their boundaries to even more limits, and everyone has the same amount of opportunities and is able to enjoy this world and to interact with this as much as this world as possible. When I experience moments of being upset, sort of when I feel like I've hit a wall of how much I can accomplish and I experience a shortcoming and I'm disappointed with myself or my abilities, I just have to remember that there's a limit of what my abilities can do, but there's also a limit of what the world will allow you to do on the world that we live in. And of course we have to keep pushing those boundaries and keep breaking those ceilings and being the change we want to see in the world. That's all we can do. That's what living our best life looks like. That's what interacting with as much of this world as we can, as to what our capabilities allow, looks like. So don't feel bad about your shortcomings. Just make the most of what you can in the limited time we have in this world. So I encourage everyone, it's never too late. Go take that class, go pursue that job, go learn piano and violin, interview, submit, go for it. Go for that vacation, go on that trip. Experience as much of this world as you can as to what your capabilities allow. Always be pushing the boundaries of your desires and capabilities. Be grateful for all the experiences you have. Be grateful for all the people and the connections you have because they elevate your experience of this life. Having that attitude removes this binary of good and bad, success, failure, winners, losers. We're all gonna die at some point. There's no escaping it. Some of us will have longer and some of us will have shorter. We have no control of that. And so the most we can do is really just experience everything as much as we can with the time we have. As depressing as that sort of sounds, it actually doesn't depress me at all. It makes me feel happy and it makes me feel invigorated and it makes me feel like I didn't waste any of my life, and it gets rid of all the regret that I hold in myself for things I failed to do, things I didn't do, things I did instead of something else. Because everything I did up to this point and all the things that I've experienced, all the people I've met, all add up to this cumulative life that I've lived, and I'm grateful for it. And I strive to continue to do that. So anyway, that's all I have for this episode. I hope that was useful to whoever's watching this. It certainly helps me cope and deal with feelings of personal and professional shortcomings and whatever disappointment that comes with. Please let me know in the comment section below what you thought, if you agree or disagree, and what other questions you want to discuss in the future. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye!